Welcome to the DragonShip. I'm Thor, and the DragonShip is on Vikings to the Shield Wall. Today, we got a really exciting topic for you guys. We're going to chop it up, and let's start some controversy, and then we'll raid throughout the topic and enjoy our panel today. Today is marriage is not an equal partnership. That's right. You heard me right. It's not a partnership. In no way, shape, or form does Red Pill Thor and many others believe that marriage is an equal partnership. It's a funny thing. Marriage was always known as a covenant between a man and a wife across religions, across time. And it's important because men and women are better together than they are apart. However, there has become this change in popular culture to broadcast marriage as a partnership. And this really stems out of a couple of decades back when there was a real push in the 90s to, make, gay marriage a thing, which is fine, but they couldn't do it because too many people understand marriage between a man and a woman. And of course, that's not pop culture. It's not politically correct. So in order to get around that, once again, as I've talked out before, they change the language and say it's a partnership. And hence now we have a domestic partnership. And we're going to talk about why marriage is absolutely not a equal partnership. Never has been, never can be. And we're going to chop it up, and I'm sure it's going to piss some people off, but I don't really care because the beauty of having a husband and a wife together, creating their empire, it is so amazing. It's so different than a equal partnership. And that's the beauty therein. So let me bring up the panel members. And remember, guys, on the DragonShip, we try to stay positive. Rising tide lifts all boats, and we are that rising tide. And I'm going to bring in my number one Drakkar right now is Glenn Lawrence. He has come up, and he is in the actual studio of Red Pill Thor, where, if you notice, we're in the exact same studio. How you doing, Glenn?
Unmute
Go ahead
myself.
and unmute yourself.
I'm doing good. You know what? I'm over here drinking out of a chalice of a dragon eye. Living the Viking life over here at Thor's Castle. You guys got some video we showed of me throwing some axes and some knives yesterday. It's pretty fucking epic.
So you did some Viking stuff, huh?
Did some Viking shit. I became a Viking. I got I got the cross going on. I got the Thor hammer going on right here. I got this Viking. Man, I'm turning into a Viking every minute that I'm here.
You had to earn it though.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't come free.
No, you got to earn that shit. And we're going to get into this conversation, and you know what? As we're going to be bringing it to you guys, I'm with my background in theology and Christianity and going to Bible college. I'm going to really upset a whole lot of women with some verses today they're not going to want to hear. So without further ado, let's bring everybody else on though, before we get to that.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to bring them up one at a time. The next car in line is one of our solid axe wielders. They're in Texas. And we're going to bring him up, and that's Mr. Phil Foster, Viking Supreme, man, out there in Texas, just slaying it. How you doing, Phil?
What's up, brothers? Doing it, man. Looking forward to today's topic. It's going to be a good one. There's going to be some butthurt feelings out there. We can patch them up, though. We'll give them some insights and get them to understand a little bit.
Butthurt. I haven't heard that in a while.
Hey, give them a little bit of analese, and they'll be good.
Dude, you know how it is, guys. Hoes be mad, bros be mad. It just got to get them through it, get them over it. People will be all right.
Yeah, that sounds good, man. And we love that voice of yours, man. We'll just bring you up and we'll talk about it. And, let's bring up our next man in line. And that's going to be, we haven't seen you in a while. Let's bring up Wraith Detour, man. This guy, I mean, come on, man. This is one of our greatest Viking warriors right there. How you doing, Wraith? Unmute yourself and say hi.
Hi, guys. I'm doing well. Like I said, I've been vacant for about a month and doing some rest and recuperation from a little health issue, but I'm here. Let's talk.
Absolutely. And Wraith's been, hey, you got a lot of years under your belt. You got decades under your belt being married. So I think you understand this topic very, very well. And we're honored to have you on the DragonShip. And another solid Viking to add with immense wisdom and inspiration we're going to bring up. And that's our good buddy, Mark Daniels from Mark's Inspiration. How are you, Mark?
I'm great. Glad to be here.
You got a little bit of experience with marriage and long-term relationships and or Do you have any? You have any partnerships there?
Quite a few. No partnerships. I never looked at it as a partnership. It just
Yeah.
seemed to work out that way for me. But hey, I'm glad to be here and chop it up today on this hot topic, and probably will piss a few people off. But hey, if it pisses you off, you need to take a look at yourself, because there's something inside of you that is a problem.
Yeah, let's do it. And we're going to bring in one of our
can I introduce my domestic partner?
Would you like to? I think it'd be really nice.
Yeah, like I want
introduce
everybody.
your
I want you guys to
domestic
know
partner.
that I have a new domestic partnership with Junior here.
Yes,
Without
sir.
further ado,
Yeah, bring
let's
him on
bring
out.
up my domestic partner, the Husband.
Oh, hey, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
I knew it.
We are officially in business together, you guys. We got an LLC out for your Big Brothers podcast. So he is now my partner.
I know, man. He was a little bit jealous yesterday when we were throwing those axes.
I know
I
he told me I was cheating on him with you yesterday.
Shit.
You guys were emotionally bonding. Yeah, I saw you.
No.
What's up, Huds?
Not too much, man. It's my favorite part of the week. I can't wait to get into this discussion.
Cool. Let me kick it off a little bit and talk about this thing, partner. I mean, guys, I know Mark's been around or Ray's been around. I don't know how often in your early life that marriage was referred to as a partnership or even a partner. I remember growing up, and it was just starting to lose fashion. But if you go back and you look at any of the media from several decades ago, actually, when you use the term partner, it was kind of a term of endearment for men to greet each other. Don't you remember? Wraith, howdy, partner.
Yep.
Right. So we would do things like that. Howdy, partner. How you doing? You know, it was just it wasn't something that was referred to very commonly for relationships. Do you recall that term, right?
Yeah, I do. And I actually recall it in marriages, probably back, it started in the 80s, maybe 80s to early 90s. I don't have a real issue with partner and calling, a woman in my life a partner.
Okay.
But the problem is way too many people think that partnerships are 50-50. And that, it's equity. That's not necessarily true. I mean, if you look through different types of partnerships, even in business, people own a certain percentage of the business, and it's not always 50-50. So
well, I'm glad you brought that up, because, that was one of the main differences I wanted to make about partnership versus marriage. So Wraith, in partnerships, I just do a simple Google search and I start to drill down in partnerships, right?
Mhm.
Partnerships in definition, if you just start to go back a few decades, like you said, in the 80s, did not refer to an interpersonal relationship. It referred to business relationships, strictly business relationships. And then you started to see them adding definitions where it would be, a significant other and things like that was introduced into the language. And then you looked at a partnership success. And here is my take on a partnership, is why I won't call my wife my partner or my marriage a partnership. Unfortunately, many of the advantages of partnerships can also be disadvantages, and the statistics show that 70% of business partnerships ultimately fail. So I take that and I look up marriage failure rate. It is almost 50% of all marriages in the United States will end in divorce. Now, that's plus or minus 4%, but that's a significant difference between a partnership and a marriage. That right there says it is not a partnership. Just that one, data point. So what do you guys think about that?
Well, I think in any relationship, even if it's a business relationship, someone has to lead.
Yes.
And, when you have two people that are trying to make a decision and neither one of them is willing to take responsibility for the decision, or they both want to take responsibility for the decision and can't agree on something, that's automatically going to be failure.
Mm-hmm.
What
do you guys think about that?
I started hearing the term probably back in the 80s when the gay relationships became more public, so to speak. I would hear them refer to their significant other as their partner. That's where I first started hearing it. And then, of course, you hear it now. But I don't think it's a partnership, because I've had more than one marriage. And there's been times where they've actually asked me what to do and actually straight out said, "Tell me what to do." Now, in a partnership, it's not so much like that. But in a marriage relationship where it's not a partnership, there's always, as Ray said, there's always one person leading and one person looking to that leader for some kind of direction. So for me, and there were times when I wouldn't tell her what to do because I wanted her to make her own mistakes. And looking back in retrospect, because I didn't want to feel like I was controlling, looking back in retrospect, I should have complied in that respect and told her what to do. Because a lot of times women, I believe they don't want to be, as we know, sometimes accountable. They don't want to take responsibility. And you as the leader need to take that responsibility and not, especially when they straight out ask you, tell me what to do. But it's easy to get caught up in the social narrative of, even back then, the last time I was married, of well, she's got her own life. You got to let her make her own mistakes and do her own thing. And that's all good and fine. But what happens is whatever mistakes I make filters down on the family, the wife, and the kids. And whatever mistakes she makes, if I'm not guiding her correctly, causes problems or filters down to the whole family. So when you're in a situation like that, if you want to call it a partnership, but when you're in a family situation like that, somebody has to lead and somebody has to sometimes make the ultimate decisions. More times than not, I believe.
Oh, that's a really good point. When I look at partnerships as it's laid out in business, do you know what the number one reason for the failure is? You guys know?
What's that?
Okay, so here's the number one
Finance.
reason. It's one
Money?
of the partners gets to the point where he feels like he's pulling all the work and the other partner's not. This happens across all partnerships. The expectations that are laid out, and a lot of them will think, "Oh, I'm doing all the work and they're doing nothing and taking all the credit." There is that factor that's out there, and you guys understand what the number one reason for the divorces are, right? In marriages. So that, if you look at it, it's no fault, but you drill into it and it's loss of attraction. A little bit different. Now,
Well,
of
each
course,
person
You
has
know,
to put out
damage.
the effort.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Phil.
no, my apologies. Go ahead, Mark. Finish up.
I was just making a statement. Each person has to be willing to put out the effort. Otherwise, a partnership can't work, nor can a marriage work. When one person decides they're not willing to put out the effort, then that's what happens. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, just to add to him drilling down on that a little bit, that loss of attraction, right?
Yeah.
That loss of attraction happens because the other person leaves the other person holding the bag.
Yep.
Yeah.
You look past their faults for a time. Okay. You can look past a human being's faults for a time, but when they leave you holding the bag repeatedly and they promise change, they promise they're going to change the behavior that triggers you to be like, what the fuck? What are you doing?
Yeah.
As a man, you can lead a woman through a relationship, but if she's a damaged woman, you're in for a long road to hoe, bro. Period.
Yeah.
There is no way around that. Okay. So you got to really vet these women in the beginning if you're going to marry them. Okay. And let me tell you something. Women can lie. And the crazy comes out later down the road. And you find yourself in a position like, well, who is this person? And so you kind of say to yourself, okay, well, I'm going to straighten this out with her. And I'm going to see if I can lead her through these troubled waters, so to speak. Okay. And hey, these are the behaviors you're displaying that I don't like and I will not tolerate or accept in my presence. I need you to change these things because I want you in my life. I want you as a complement to where I'm going in this world. But the issue is, in this day and age, most women are so strong, independent, and lied to by feminism. They think that they have it all figured out. It's no wonder that it's an epidemic of single mothers. It's no wonder that divorce is on the rise. And it's no wonder by what they say, 2030, 85% of women are going to be single. When you cannot reconcile with a human being that you're in a partnership, we'll call it marriage, what's the point? The juice is definitely not worth the squeeze then.
Right.
So you got to understand fundamentally that we're here as a society because women have tried to grab the wheel and take over. But that's not how biology works. Men lead, women follow, period.
Phil,
And
let
you
me
can
tee
have-
off on that. Sorry,
Hold on. Give me one more. I'm almost done. You can be the most masculine, dedicated, bulletproof frame dude. If you have a damaged woman in your life because of her poor choices and actions in her life, you're in for a long road to hoe. I digress, Glenn. Go.
Oh, I want to tee off on what you said. Like, You said like women trying to grab the wheel and try to take the wheel. I don't think it's not necessarily always that. I think a lot of the times is men are sitting in the passenger seat. We have a generation of men that rather sit in the passenger seat and not play their position. And okay, so and I wanted you to throw that video up of that woman, Phil.
Blonde or brunette?
The blonde.
Let's get there in a second. I just want to make sure everybody had their piece on equal partnership. You know, let's get your thoughts on why it's not an equal partnership, and then we'll get that viewpoint from the girl, what her thoughts are, and then we'll juxtapose it with the other video, right?
The reason why it's not equal partnership from the beginning of time, if you want to go biblical, I'll go biblical on you. In the beginning of time, God made Adam first. God gave him the authority over everything on the earth. That means animals, plants. He named all this shit. And then when God said, you know, he should not be alone, he needs a helper, not a partner. He needs a helper. That's what the scripture says. I'll pull it up here in 2 Genesis 2:18. It says, the Lord said it's not good for a man to be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him. Nowhere does it say a equal partner, a helpmate. All right. So just from that alone, it shows you there's a hierarchy, that this relationship between men and women is not equal. It's not equal. So no, there is no such thing as an equal partnership. And any guy that gets into a relationship that calls himself an equal partnership, they're setting up the relationship for failure. You are going in with losing as the goal.
And it's set up that way, Glenn. It's set up that way based on biology.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you realize that us males, I mean, we're built and bred for combat. That's a role that we don't expect women to take, yet it's being pushed in every media outlet today, that a 120-pound woman can take down a 200-pound man, a bear.
Yeah.
You know,
young people are starting to believe it.
They are, and it's actually extremely, extremely dangerous to think in those terms, because it puts you in a place where you're open to physical harm for sure, and mental harm, because you start thinking it's an equal partnership. I mean, look at the argument between it wasn't even an argument, but Andrew Tate and what was it, XKQZ or whatever. Do you guys recall that video? We showed some of it here, and the young man was thinking, you know, that his duty to protect, if she was better at protecting, it was her duty, which is not correct. That's his view. That was an equal partnership. And
wasn't that Destiny?
Was it Destiny? Or
it was Destiny
XPX?
When he said like, if a burglar came in your house and you and your wife were upstairs, your girl were upstairs, are you going to go down and protect her? And he's like, no, we're both going to stay up here and hide.
Well, he said that too. So that's why it is. But the other guy kept arguing that, well, what if she's a better shot? It would be her taking an AR-15 down there. You know, it's like, yeah, this is a specious argument, really, because based on biology, it's a very different thing. And because of that, our roles inside of our marriage is very different. A wife is very different than a partner. Now, she can become a business partner and work for you and with you. There are very much similarities when you're vetting a wife or a potential wife. It's very much like a very extended job interview. You have to get past the chemistry to know what the base level firmware she's operating with, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's key to your eventual success, because there will be a loss of attraction, and we will do some episodes on how to maintain that later on, but it's very much not the same. She has a skill set in nurturing and is very perceptive with her subcommunication to emotions, which children need, that we don't necessarily have expertise in. So that's pretty interesting. And so this whole marriage is not an equal partnership is rooted in that biology. Would you guys all agree?
Yeah.
Anything else to add to that before we move to our next segment?
Absolutely. I got one point to make. How could, and Phil might, I'll address this to Phil. How could a woman maintain attraction for a guy who's going to say if the burglar breaks in, that he's not going to go down and they're both going to stay up there and hide? I don't think that's possible. How could she feel secure and safe with a guy like that?
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like women, they want to be sheltered, shielded, and protected, period. If you're a friggin' wuss, I don't care if you're out in public and someone checks you publicly. You need to step to that, man, especially if your woman's watch. She's going to immediately lose that. You know, you need to be capable of violence. It doesn't mean you walk around with a chip
Right.
on your shoulder, though, right? If someone comes in my house, if someone comes in my home, she wouldn't even be aware until I say call 911.
Well, anywhere you go, Phil, really,
Yeah.
it becomes jeopardized.
But I'm just addressing Mark and what he was
Yeah.
talking about, you know, about coming into the home. You know what I mean? When I came back into the room, I'd say, call 911.
But don't you think there's an illusion? I mean, when they talk about that, a woman standing with a guy that speaks like that, I believe she's under an illusion that she actually thinks that she is as capable as him and they are equal. But when the shit hits the fan, and then she'll realize that, hey, this is not reality. If it ever does hit the fan.
I don't think a woman is in the illusion of that by any means. I think she's questioning, you know, whether or not she should leave now or sooner. I think it's a woman.
You don't think she believes that? You don't think
no,
she believes
I think she wants to believe it, but
Yeah.
deep down inside, she knows she's not capable.
I think deep down inside, I think you're right, but she wants to project to their friends in the outer world that she
strong,
is capable.
independent.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the whole thing, right? You know, and you know, for generations, like guys, we were toting this thing too. I mean, we have music. There's songs called Miss Independent.
Yeah.
Like men were toting this around. We want a Miss Independent woman. She had her own things. You know, she got her own bag. She has her own purse. She could come out of pocket. Like there's R&B songs where people are singing this, like this is what they want. So then women, that only reinforced women that I need to be the strong, independent woman. Like I need to have this, I don't need a man attitude, because that's what men want. And that's, you know, that's furthest thing from the truth. They're setting women up for failure. And guys, we have to look at ourselves and ask ourselves, when did we start doing that? When did we start setting women up for failure? Because we co-signed for generations this independent woman thing that women could do anything equal as a man. Like when I saw, like when women were getting into combat, I was like, this is the biggest mistake we're doing in our military. The biggest mistake. We're setting ourselves up for failure here.
Well, Glenn, I think that I kind of chuckle because I think you say, when did men do this and when did we accept it? Well, I think we kind of got googly eyes when hormonal birth control got out there and we went, oh, poon for everybody, let's go. And it was a trap. Gentlemen, it's a trap.
I think it started in the 60s with the women's lib push and movement. I remember the songs, you got your own cigarette now, baby, you've come a long way to get to where you've got to today. That was the Virginia Slims.
Yeah. Mark Daniels with that esoteric knowledge right there.
Exactly.
Actually, it started before that, guys. It started in the 40s and the 50s.
Did it?
During the war, women had to go in and start working because men were out fighting.
It's true.
That's when it really started. And then after the men came back, they wanted to create time for women. So that's when we started, building dishwashers and washing machines that don't have to do anything with other throw clothes in it. As we tried to make their lives more comfortable, we started giving them time to think about the other things they could be doing with time.
Yeah.
And in reality, men were creating that comfort for women because they wanted to protect and allow that woman to not be stressed and to spend more time with their children and stuff like that. They took the time that we were trying to develop for spending more time with the family and children, and they decided they want to go to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was definitely a large social push there. But roles when it comes to marriage and what they're saying an equal partnership is, it's definitely different. I mean, for me, I've witnessed it when, the toilet backs up. Does the woman want to go fix that? Does she want to go dig up the sewer?
Great point.
Or do you want to take out the trash? Or maybe how about folding the laundry? I don't know about you guys, but I'm banned from doing laundry. So
I hate folding.
I haven't done my own laundry in 2 years.
well, I mean, but it's interesting because when we get into these videos, you'll see that the roles that they're being asked to be fulfilled based on the fact that they're both bringing in income is kind of strange because it's never ever been an issue when attraction is fully in place for the woman to the man and the man is doing his burden of performance, it is never even an issue. Now, we're not talking about basic human decency needs. Like, I mean, if you're a human being, you take care of your shit. When you can take care of your shit, you take care of your shit. You know, if it means picking up your clothes, then do it. I mean, everybody brushes their teeth, I would hope, right? Either if you got a marriage like that, you got bigger problems. You know, if you got a guy that's sitting on the couch that's a video game enthusiast, and it's gone beyond enthusiasm, where he's got Cheeto crumbs in his neck beard and he's not washing himself, and you're complaining that he's not pulling his fair share, you essentially have an addict on your hands. And that is always a problem. That's not what we're talking about right now, right? So yeah, Mrs. PD Foster. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and I bet it makes you feel very proud and good when he puts his clothes on and he goes, "Yeah, this is nice, you know, thank you." I mean, a solid man appreciates what a woman's role comes in, and part of her role is, you know, she makes a home a home. He
Right.
provides the framework and she fills it out, and it's pretty damn amazing. I'll tell you. I mean, Glenn, you've seen the home. That's all her. She decorates. None of that really matters to me. My skill set is in a different area. And her biggest concern, you know, when people come over is that, you know, it's nice, it's done. She's showing her part that she is actually, you know, she's an extension of me. And her, you know, and so it's an amazing thing to see when the roles are done properly. It's definitely not equal. I mean, I would never think that some of the things that I built and I've done. Well, I'll give you an example. I dug my own water well. If she was an equal partner, she would have been out there. She was out there supporting me. But she couldn't do all the hard work. We dug trenches, we did mud. And I'll tell you this, she's not built for it. It was really difficult. You know, I had my son helping me, and we just did what we were good at. What we were good at, we just fulfilled our roles, you know. And I think that's the difference here. And you'll hear these ladies talking, or this lady talking with Phil's video, that I think illustrates the point perfectly. Let me bring up our other panel member real quick and just say hi. I know he's joining us early in the morning from Tokyo. We appreciate Laurent every time. Laurent has experience. He's been in a long-term marriage, and here we go. Laurent, you're up into the stream. Welcome.
Good morning, gentlemen, or good evening, I should say.
Thank you. So, guys, let's talk about this. You know, we know that biblically it was meant to be, it said that man, you know, needed a helper, a helpmeet, I think, in the King James Bible. So
help mate.
In the King James, it says help meet. So it's kind of an interesting juxtaposition, helpmate, helper. So he creates this woman, right? So that's an interesting take religiously, and Glenn being a religious expert. And those roles get defined in the Bible, do they not, Glenn? The difference between men and women.
Yeah.
So,
yes, they do. And you know, I'm going to turn to First Timothy 2, verse. I'm going to start at verse 12 here.
yeah, you had something to share on that. We can share that screen and talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to segue right into the videos, and that'll open up a lot of conversation, right?
Yep. And this is important, you guys, like, because I remember I already explained to you that God said he's going to make man a suitable helper, right? And so let me see if I could blow this screen up. Hold on. I'm not used to Mac. So anyways, I'm just going to leave it like that. All right. It says right here, I do not permit women to teach or have authority over a man, but to be in silence. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived fell into transgression. Nevertheless, she will be saved in childbearing if they continue in faith, love, holiness, and self-control. Important thing here is women's role is not to have any authority over men.
Yeah.
So you can't be an equal partner
In a marriage.
In a marriage, because that means that woman has some veto authority over a man. She has some authority equal to a man, and then you have no control. When you have two people having 50%, authority, you get nothing done. You have to have somebody that has a higher authority percentage than someone else. It's a hierarchy.
Right.
You know, I like this. Yeah, I like what Jose said. You know, and it's interesting that it says, and I do not permit women to teach or have authority. Another variation of this, if I go back real quick, it says right here, to exercise authority over men. I find that interesting as well. She's not supposed to exercise authority over a man, but to be quiet, nor to have dominion over a man, but to be in quietness. We have empowered women, and women in this whole feminist mindset believe that they're equal to men. And here's the thing: women are not equal to men, but they're just as important.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for people to understand when we say, you know, women are, you know, we need egalitarian because egalitarianism makes them equal. No, you don't have to be equal in authority or power to be as equal in value. There's a difference there. A woman is equal in value as a man because guess what? We need, as men, we need a help me, our suitable helper, you know. But too often people think that they have to have the same authority. In Ephesians, it says right here, wives, submit to your husbands as you submit to the Lord. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, which he is a savior. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. That right there shows you, again, there's no equal partnership, ladies. If you want a healthy relationship, you want a good marriage, you want a long-lasting Thor-like marriage, you have to realize there's a hierarchy. And when the roles get reversed, if you guys know this, when women start making more than men in the income, and they start being the breadwinner, they're doomed for divorce.
The
When women get
statistics
that
do
raise,
show that, yeah.
when women get a raise, that's when the divorce tends to happen.
It starts to set itself up, that's for sure. You know,
And
what's interesting about this, where we're going to get pushback, Glenn,
Uh-huh.
from the ladies is, oh my God, that's like slavery. And it's incredible. You know, you guys would force us. There is no force here.
No,
and this is voluntary servitude.
You know the difference between obedience and submission? Obedience is following to slavery, right? You have to do this because it's the law, right? I have to drive the speed limit because if I don't, the consequences is I get a ticket and I got to pay a fine because that's the law. You know what submission is? Submission is the willingness and desire to obey.
Mm-hmm.
So submission is not slavery. When a woman submits to her husband, she's doing it because it's a desire for her.
And do you have on hand any of those verses? I don't know if we checked it, but when she does this, there is essentially she gets rewarded. There are rewards for her fulfilling a role in marriage.
Yeah, let me pull them up.
While he's jerking that, let me just tee off of what he's doing while you're pulling those up, Glenn. Let me just say one thing. So it's interesting, you know, when you really start paying attention, and men and women, you know, now we got women in the workforce, you know, they're being fulfilled, they're making money through a job. Okay, so they're actually building that relationship with that job, with that boss, with their coworkers, and they're losing touch or losing themselves in their marriage. Feminism is completely lied. And I believe it's a government thing sometimes, because I'm going to tell you why. Not to go too tinfoil hat on you guys, but think about this for a second. 2-income households produce what? More tax revenue. It's all about the money. Women have been lied to be you go girl, femme empowerment, all of these things in the workforce. 100% when a woman starts making more than a man, that bitterness will set in. She will start to resent him because the dynamic of the relationship has been shifted. Absolutely, a man will look at his woman and say, gosh, she's a top earner. Okay, so you have this whole generation of dudes now that are with these girls that are making millions on OnlyFans, right? They're banging it out. They're landing big dollars, and they're sitting back driving the Lambos. And I just can't even get with that either. The moral of the story is, when a guy finds himself in that position, I believe that he has basically cucked himself. He has basically submitted to her. okay? Because the role has been reversed. It's important for men to understand that it is your duty. It is your duty. It is your burden of performance, 100%, to provide for your tribe. If she's making more money than you better figure that out, man. Number one. Number two, you might not have the right woman if you're trying to build a family with her. Because the simple fact is if she's at work and you're at work, who's raising your children? Who's instilling those ideals of your tribe, of your leadership into your children? I got a couple of buddies, and one of them in the chat, the Family Alpha, that's one of his big things, they're 100% kid oriented. Their kids are going to be I'm telling you, they've raised these kids with friggin' capes. These kids are going to be flying pretty soon. It's an amazing thing to watch when a family focuses on raising their children in a correct manner versus an incorrect manner. And I think that when women go to the workforce and they have this relationship with their job and they are making more money than their men, that dynamic gets reversed. It gets bastardized. Because the simple fact is 2-income households provide more tax revenue for the government. It's a big friggin' lie. Chase the money.
Yeah, let me hop back on here and share some of this stuff.
Okay,
with you guys.
Don't
I'm not going to kick you out. I'm not going to kick you out this time, Thor.
That's all right. Look what before you do.
Yeah,
I would like to explore this with you, Phil, because you're close to her. Because I think this is really important too. After Glenn talks about this.
Yep.
But she points out something that's really interesting, and I want to talk about that too, because cube farms are detrimental to women.
Yes.
All right. So in Titus 2:3 verses 5 says, older women likewise are to be reverent in behavior, not slander or slaves to much wine. They are to teach what is good. And so to train young women to love their husbands and children, to be self-controlled, pure, working at home, kind, and submissive to their own husbands, that the word of God may be revealed. All right. That right there, older ladies, this is where we're messing up. We have a generation of older women are telling young women to be independent. You don't need a man. You're equal to a man, blah, blah, blah. And they're setting up these young ladies up for failure. They're not teaching them to love their husbands. They're not teaching them to be self-controlled. Who is that lady that wrote that book that was date all of them, date the bad boys, date the nerds, date
that was an interview, and that was done. That was
the chick from Facebook, right?
The CEO of Facebook,
Sheryl Sandberg. That was Sheryl Sandberg.
Yeah. So her alone, she is misleading women. She's sending women down the wrong path. Let me read some more here real quick. Here's Proverbs. This is what a good woman's supposed to be like. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She looks well in the ways of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children rise up and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women have done excellently, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceitful, beauty is vain, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her works praise her in the gates. And one more to finish off with for you guys is this. Oh, that's the same one, isn't it? No, here we go. The woman who fears the Lord, an excellent wife who could find. She is far more precious than a jewel. The heart of her husband trusts in her. See that? A good woman has the trust of her husband in her heart and will have no lack of gain. She does him good, not harm, all the days of her life. She seeks the wool and flax and works with willing hands. A lot of women don't want to work with willing hands no more. They complain, right? She is like a ship of the merchants, and she brings her food from afar. She rises while it is yet night and provides food for her household and portions for her maidens. She considers a field and buys it. With the fruit of her hands, she plants a vineyard. She dresses herself with strength and makes her arms strong. She's perceived that her merchandise is profitable. Her lamp does not go out at night. She puts her hands to the distaff, and her hands hold a spindle. She opens her hands to the poor, and she reaches out her hands to the needy. She's not afraid of snow on her household, for her household are clothed in scarlet. Like, and it continues. Her husband is known in the gates when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes linen garments and sells them. She drives sashes to the merchants. Strength and dignity are her clothing. She laughs at the time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom. Not a lot of women these days are opening their mouth with wisdom. They're just opening their mouth with bullshit. You know, she looks well to the way of her household and does not eat. I already read that verse, but you see, like,
Yeah.
There is a place for women, and there's a beauty in a woman that is submissive and that takes care, that knows her role, and she knows that it's not equal to her husband, but she understands her role and she sees the value in her role. And I don't think a lot of women these days respect the value of their role in a relationship. You know, I think they have a hard time understanding how valuable their relationship is.
So, Glenn, it is, and it's actually, if you look at that, there's a little bit of, poetry in there. But it's what I take away from it, and what I can actually say, is there is a reward of fulfillment that it is almost indescribable for a woman that, as she ages in a good marriage, that she's very fulfilled by these roles. And I'll just use the example, if her husband's done his part, carried the burden of performance, she's rewarded with family. I mean, right now, I have 10 grandkids, and I got 2 on the way. That'll be 12. And to see her light up when those little kids are around, and to pass that on through daughters and sons, and it's quite nice to see that happiness. It's not a bad thing. And I have to actually kind of feel sorry for the women that have followed the Sheryl Sandberg plan, because what you're really doing is you're going to these cube farms, which we talked about earlier. And oh, by the way, as Zach from the Family Alpha, if he wants to come on, have Phil drop a link. We'd love to hear from you, brother. Thanks for the chats. But those cube farms strip her of a lot of time and energy that she would be able to put into the relationship and her home, which is really, really interesting. Society's really pressured the 2-income family for sure. But there's a lot of benefit when the woman is putting her energy and effort and creativity into the home with her man. But what they do is they end up having this corporation that becomes a pseudo husband. She spends more time with other men. You ever wonder why cheating is so rampant in the workforce? It really is. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. You can look up stats, but you don't really need to. Just go to work. You'll see. You spend more time with your work husband than you do with your real husband.
So
because
ask you,
the government's become the daddy.
Oh, so with that,
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? And I've been reading Coco's stuff here. Why do you think feminism has been successful?
Put her stuff up.
Why do I think feminism has been successful?
Right.
I think feminism has been successful because men find a way to cop out. In a way, like, oh, I don't got to do all this work. She could do some of it too. And you know what? And I'll still run things. But then as time persisted, they're like, well, wait a minute. If I'm pulling the same amount of work as you are, then aren't we equal? Because that's how businesses are. If we're both pulling our equal share, then we're both equal, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking a little bit more deep than that.
Okay.
If women embrace feminism, and they also have to embrace consumerism.
Right.
Okay. Consumerism drives, if you look at men and men burden of performance, consumerism drives the burden of performance higher. Coco asked, right now we have to have two job families. No, we don't. What we have to do is start living within the means.
Yeah,
That's correct.
that's it right there.
If we start living within the means and quit worrying about having the Coco Chanel purses or whatever the hell else women think they need, and men are just as bad. I mean, they have to, by driving consumerism, you basically do away with, in essence, individuality and individual choice. How do you do away with individuality? Is it individuality if you're all wearing Calvin Klein jeans? No, it's not. because consumerism drives the product choice. The product choice drives how much men have to make in order to attract women. And then when they can't do that, women go out and they try to make it on their own. And how are they doing that? They're using their sexuality to drive that consumerism for themselves.
Oh, absolutely. That's their only agency, really.
Right. So why is feminism so successful? Because we've allowed them to tell us that having things are more important than having relationships. It comes down just to that right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the women are following our lead, they're following the lead of men's materialism, which we've seen grow over the years to tremendous heights, really.
Right. But men are doing that because they want to have availability to women.
Yeah. It's a vicious circle, isn't it?
Right.
It really is. It really is. And the roles are so important, but even within those roles, we are driven for consumerism. It affects every one of us. That's for sure. Did you want to add one more thing, Laura, before we get into the roles specifically with our videos?
Yeah, the rise of feminism, two things. There's a fantastic book called Subverted. Subverted was written about a lady who was this is a lady, she witnessed the rise of feminism. There's this magazine called Vogue, and back in the 70s, they were writing articles, like propaganda articles, where they told women, oh, you can have it all. You can postpone because it was very much an advertisement driven movement where, wait a minute, if women get married, they will fall out of the workforce. Then no more Chanel, no more L'Oreal, no more all these products. So they say, okay, you can have it all. You can delay your marriage. You can have you can stay longer working. You can have a career, and you can be a housewife, and you can have sex with as many people as you can. So it was very much driven by consumerism. And there's also another factor where the common denominator with all this is, well, you're a victim. And this is how they inserted the victim mentality. Like, no matter what, there's a common denominator. You blame the dude. So wait a minute. I can consume more. I can do all this. And it was very much propaganda. The book Subverted is absolutely fascinating to read, like the rise of feminism, and also describing like how they sided with because originally, like, the sexual revolution and feminism were antagonistic, and they got married together because of abortion. So I highly recommend you read that book, and it'll show a very crude light on the
Say
lies
the
that
book
feminism
again.
is in. Subverted.
Subverted. Interesting. Thanks, Lauren. We appreciate you that. Now, I'm going to take us to the next segment, which I think will be really interesting. What we're talking about all along here with the difference between why it's not an equal partnership, we're really talking about roles. We're talking about why the roles are different, how they're perceived differently, and why are the roles being shamed? We've got a lot of shaming language we're going to listen to here right now, but there might be a fundamental misunderstanding of the roles between a man and a wife. I think that's been just completely destroyed on purpose in our media through modern feminism because it's salacious. It keeps people in consumerism, all those sort of things. I'm going to pass it off to Phil Foster and
Dr. Philip on you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And his
Are you
words.
laughing at my private chat messages, Phil?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So you want me to go ahead and dig in? Which one do you want? Do you want the blonde or brunette first, Thor?
It doesn't really matter. Let's go ahead and go with
Let's go to blonde.
brunette first, and then the blonde, and I'll play the video of what her husband would be doing while she's complaining about everything. How about
Okay,
that?
let me see if I can get this correct
This
for
would be
you,
good.
His
gents.
share of the domestic labor and childcaring. So if you are a woman in a relationship with a man and you find yourself regularly or semi-regularly having to have that discussion with your man about picking up his share of the household work or child caring or both, and he either says that he will take on more tasks but then never actually manages to meaningfully do that, or he just outright argues that he shouldn't have to take the slack in the household, What he is saying to you is that he believes that his time is worth more than your time. He believes that you should have to do more work than him. He believes that his right to leisure and ease in his life is greater than your right, and he doesn't care about whether you get the leisure that you need or not. And I think with these things, I would encourage you to understand that he probably thinks that his worth as a person is greater than yours. And once you know these things, do you think you should stay in a relationship with that man?
So hold it right there. Do you actually think that you can get all of that from the guy just missing a trash or two or a dish or two? He hates you that much, and he's held you in that in that lowest self. Well, let me just put it this way: there are low quality women out there, but I'd be surprised if she lasts long in any relationship, because obviously, whatever her experience is, there is no attraction at all. When those issues boil to that level, it is such minor bunch of bullshit that if it's actually boiling those things up to the top, there's no attraction at all. It's just bizarre to me, because those have never been an issue in my relationships forever. The house chores, those never come up. There's never an issue. It's so bizarre. Do I make her do everything? Well, good Lord, if there's trash in the ground, I'll pick it up myself. But it's just so bizarre to even hear something like that coming from her. But continue.
Yeah, it said that was the end of that one right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
So
don't you throw up that other video, Thor?
yeah, I can.
Well, wait. I want to go after the blonde, because she really points out what she's doing, and then I'll throw up what her man might be doing while she's complaining about not doing
It, even with just that clip there, like when it comes to household chores or any certain things that need to be done, like I tell my girl all the time, like if there's something that needs to be done and she doesn't want to do it, I mean I make like 3 times as much money as her. Like I tell her I'm just gonna pay somebody to do it, like if that's really what we need. So I just think it's interesting that it's like why are you complaining? It just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, why are you complaining if, like, as a man, we always have solutions?
Well, I mean, what I wonder is, do they really think men think that deep about not doing chores? I mean, seriously.
It's so minor.
It's interesting, like real quick to pick this woman apart, in a relationship, in a marriage, partnership, whatever the hell you want to call it. If you have a woman living with you, I mean, basically this stuff is negotiated out. I mean, that's how we do it. I say, I handle the outside of the house.
Sure.
She takes care of the inside. That's her domain.
Yep.
And in doing that, I will provision and provide security for you. I have a certain expectation I like my home to be in, and I have those expectations in place because that's what I want. Okay. These are the terms of being in a relationship with me. This is what I expect of you. If you're not going to work, which is not what I want her at home, you will handle the domestic issues in our home. She does the laundry. She does the dishes. Like when we grill, I love grilling. So I like to grill the steaks. She cooks dinner. She prepares my lunch. She packs my lunch. She does all of these things intentionally because the agreement is struck. The accord is struck in our relationship. You will want or need for nothing as long as you meet my expectations and what I want in the relationship. It's real friggin' simple. The problem is most women are lazy and men do not properly vet their women. So they get in these situations with these women, i.e. the lady in the red shirt. And I saw it in the chat right here. He says right here, Danny Arnold said right here, he says, man, this brunette is safety orange sweater and is masculine looking. She also has masculine energy.
Right.
You're absolutely correct, Thor, when you said the desire is gone.
She's past the wall. She's definitely past the wall, Phil. And in addition to that, think of it this way too. If her man said, yes, I'll take care of it, and then he hired, a 24-year-old Filipina girl to come live in and start taking care of the house chores and all of those duties, I wonder how her reaction would be then.
Yeah, it's amazing to me, when you start looking at things like that. I mean, here's the thing. They want their cake and they want to eat it too. Okay, I want. But see, that's the problem. Women don't want, they need. Okay? Men want, women need. And that's just how it's built. That's how we're built. So the thing is
Mhm.
I don't think necessarily that his value is greater than hers. I think together they can build something together, but she's already checked out of the relationship.
Yeah, she is.
She's gone. She's dried. She's gone. She's passed. She's done hit the wall. It's over. You guys want to go to the blonde?
Yeah, she's going to find out something really interesting when she's by herself. Guess what? Chores still have to get done by her.
Oh man, that strong, independent woman.
Exactly.
She can do it. She can do it all herself, man. She's strong and independent, bro.
Yeah.
That's the piece that they always miss. It's like, all right, so if we're not in this relationship anymore, now you still have to do it.
Now you're cutting the grass.
And you have to do actually more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go to the blonde and then let's juxtapose it with what her man might be doing.
Yes, sir.
While she's at home.
Here we go. Let me see if I can-
Welcome to 2022. I hate it here, where women are expected to pay half the bills, half the rent, and be masculine and feminine at the same fucking time. When your husband gets home from his long day of work, he gets to play scratch and sniff with his ball sack. But you have to cook and clean and do laundry and take care of the house and also be a porn star and also go work out.
Real quick, her voice is so frigging grating.
Cause if you don't work out, he'll leave you for a younger bitch and he will pay that bitch's bills. It just doesn't make sense out here.
Okay, so she's at home. She's making the video. Right, Phil?
Yes,
So
sir.
Let me go ahead and share what maybe your husband's doing something like this. Maybe something like this would be kind of interesting, huh? Let's take a look at what he might be doing. Well, this is easy as taking out the trash, isn't it?
Yeah,
Unless your
that's,
power grid's down. I got to go restore it so everybody has power so they can watch their internet.
yeah, there's that male privilege right there. It's just
Yeah,
easy
male
life
privilege.
for men.
Wearing a steel suit in 120-degree weather.
Well, you can't tell because they're wearing helmets. Some of those could be women.
Right. Oh, yeah. Hanging from a helicopter. No problem. I can fold that laundry gear when I get home.
Yeah.
Think you could pack me a sandwich when I go to work?
How dare you?
Now, here's the shit right here. Get a little tired when you do this, you know. Maybe he's concentrating on watching that bleed meter, making sure it doesn't go over a certain level so it blows the whole tower up and everybody crashes to the ground. But, you know, got a little stress at home. It's only 2022. Yeah, there you go. So just a little interesting thought there, guys. A little thought experiment. Let me get us back out of there.
It interests me.
Yeah.
It interests me when you see something like that on the screen and you got something like that. Imagine going to work and working in an environment like that. Look, I run construction businesses. It's insane. That's like 50x to my insanity. But the thing is imagine being a stay-at-home wife and complaining about doing your end of the agreement, the accord that you struck in the beginning of the relationship. It boggles the mind to see women fussing about being a woman in this day and age. Now, I think a dude like that that's handling business like that, you know, he shouldn't be doing the laundry. I don't think he should be cleaning the house. I don't think he should be doing anything except for providing, provisioning, security, and making sure his tribe's on the right direction in this world. It amazes me. It boggles the mind, Thor. It boggles my mind.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting.
You know, and that girl, the blonde that I shared earlier, she validated it. He's going to get a younger version of her if you don't do those things. So basically what she said in her little, dissertation there, that grading voice was, you know, everything that he was attracted to in the beginning, I don't have to do anymore. And see, I think men and women both have a burden of performance.
Mm-hmm.
I think when it comes to men, they definitely have a burden of performance to provide and provision and offer security and keep her, you know, well sexed and handling your business. You know, but it's interesting when women get comfortable, they get lazy. And it goes back to vetting. If you get a lazy woman in your life, you're in for a long road to hoe. I don't care how much frame you have, how masculine you are. I don't care about any of that. You're in for a long road to hoe.
So
Because you're going to end up with a woman like that.
yeah, Phil. So let's have this conversation. You know, has modern women forgotten the power they truly have? I mean, here we just saw. You know, Joanna says that these are great examples, but she doesn't think they're regular guys. I'll tell you right now, those are regular guys. Yeah, they're flying helicopters. They're handling 500,000 volts. They're in one of the highest risk industries there is. But guess what? They all started out as regular guys. All of them did. Totally. And, you know, the power of this is when these women will help their men provide, nurture, and be that help mate we talked about. This guy will go out there and he'll work and he'll get rates of hundreds of dollars an hour. And guess what? He'll hand it all over to her gladly.
Yep.
And it will be his joy to bless her with what she wants: a good home, good cars, good social circle. She'll even get him Julio the pool boy to clean the pool, which is a mistake. But that's what the guy will do. He'll just feed her everything she needs until she will never have enough. But that is the power of femininity. When she's fully supportive of his man, he can conquer the world. All he's that is regular.
Yeah, like Joanna right here. She said, what about the pencil pushers, project managers, and office middle managed guys? It doesn't matter if he's doing a labor intensive job or he's in an office setting.
Well, this
doesn't matter.
This is really interesting, Phil, because this is the issue. 80% of men are invisible. Unless they're doing something spectacular like I just showed, they're invisible.
Well, even those guys are invisible to most women because they're not driving Lamborghinis. They're not out there living in the bars every night.
Mm-hmm.
You know yourself, after you work a good 14-hour day, the last thing you want to do is go to the bar, unless it's on the way home to drink one beer before you go to bed.
Maybe, right. And could this be a result of social conditioning through social media, raising her expectation of what is
a regular guy?
Yeah. I guess it's just the four of us, and that's perfect. You know, and you know, but here's the thing. I wanted to say something real quick. You know, while it's just the four of us, you know, it's interesting to me when you think about it like this: hoes chase shiny things. Men have figured out that the hoes love that, man. They love the Lambos. They love the extravagant lifestyles.
right.
Okay, a woman that's got some value about her does not care. I was talking to a girl yesterday, and literally her man had failed her, but she told me, she goes, if he wouldn't have failed me, I would have followed him to the ends of the earth. He just had some character flaws and failed her. The moral of the story is this: women that have some sort of value about them, that aren't hoes, that aren't chasing those glittery, shiny little objects out there that are used to get their attention, will definitely 100% follow a man to the ends of the earth. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you have.
I think that's a really good point. Like, I have to say, like with my girl, like she doesn't expect the flashy things. And she's very content with basically just the relationship and what we have. And that is rare nowadays, but that is the quality type of woman that you want to have in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're talking about the top 20% of women. Okay. It's
Fair.
The reality of it is the top 20% of the men are those guys that go out and really earn or have basically frame and stuff so that women are attracted to them. And the top 20% of women that most of those men are looking for are the women that Phil described and you're experiencing. Okay. And those top 20% of the women, they're looked down upon by the other 80% of the women You have the same thing going on with women that you have with men. It's just the opposite. Men find value in women that are submissive or that want to have a type relationship that, supports them and gives them the opportunity to support women in what they need and what they want, if it reinforces a support for the man. Women want the guy that can provide everything that they could ever dream of. I mean, those are small numbers on both sides.
Yeah.
I see. For the second clip, there was a familiar trope for me. The lady basically counted points. All right, so I do the laundry, I do the cooking, I do the cleaning, I do this, I do the laundry, 1 point. I do the cooking, 1 point. I do this, 1 point. Okay, he goes to work. He goes with those 20,000 volt, 1 point for him.
Brownie
All of
point
a sudden,
system,
she has
huh?
got
Laurent, the brownie point system?
exactly and this is a familiar trope that I see here in Japan. Well, I do this, I take care of the kids, this, that, and the other, and he goes to work. He spends 14 hours a day at work, but that's 1 point for him no matter what.
The problem with the brownie point system is, though, don't you?
I'm sorry?
So the problem with the brownie points is you do one thing and you get a brownie point, and they do another thing, you get a brownie point. All it takes is one fuck up and you lose all the brownie points.
Exactly. And she's got all these brownie points for all those small things. I mean, again, it goes to the nature of work and to the duration of work. If both spouses work the same amount of time and they're in very stressful jobs, well, first of all, the kids suffer. But in this case, well, there should be I believe that chores should be shared to a certain extent. I mean, it doesn't take much to take out the garbage and to clean the dishes. But at the same time, I mean, if one person doesn't work that much, and this is something that I see all the time, Japanese wives are very resentful of their husband because they take care of everything, and they believe that they're not validated enough, which, granted, is probably true to a certain extent. Whereas meanwhile, all he does is go to work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the guys when they spend 14 hours a day, when they leave at 7 and they come back at midnight, cut him some slack.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I want to acknowledge Joanna, and she's actually right. I mean, I thank her for this comment because the video I showed of the men who might be at work, this is kind of when you do construction work. I mean, how many of your women really know what you do when you go to work and would appreciate what you do? You are invisible when you're out there performing and doing the burden of performance. And I take it right back. The reason that this is the default with women is because of their nature. And it's the nature of hypergamy, really. And this is why it is said that women wait. They don't care about your struggles. They wait at the finish line for the winners. And it really fits into that because nobody sees those guys. Nobody sees the trash truck drivers that's making $150K a year, because they do in certain areas, because it's dangerous. Or they don't see the crab fishermen, or they don't see the loggers, the guys that go out on the oil rigs that spend a month out there to provide for their family and then come home. They miss it because, they feel stuck. They got to do this to provide. And they're basically like men of old. They're out on that hunting party for weeks to bring home that, wild boar. So, yeah, they don't know the struggles. They don't care about the struggles. And I don't need them to, really. But it is interesting that the blonde lady would be so bent out of shape. I'm curious where it came from. And not only to be bent out of shape, but some of the women we've talked to, it's like, why would you even broadcast that on a video? It's so minor, But it's not that. This has actually been talked about on major media too. And what do they call it? Chore play, right? Wasn't that popular for a while? A lot of the relationship experts came up with the term chore play.
Yeah.
Emotional
Honey,
labor.
if you do the dishes, then we can have sex.
Yeah.
No.
On to the next.
That makes it an equal partnership. That's the very next thing that comes out of their mouth, right? Is as soon as let's do chore play, that makes it equal. I don't think so. Let's just do foreplay. Skip the chore play.
It's interesting to me, though, the moral of the story is this, man. Dudes are stuck in situations with women like this. There's like 3.9 billion people, like women. Is that, I don't know the exact number, but there's plenty of women out there that will follow your lead. Why would you go to a job and work your tail off all day long, pull up in front of your house and sit in your car and look at your home and go, geez, I got to go in here and deal with this braying donkey. Get out of your car, get your lunchbox, get your friggin' briefcase if you work in an office or wherever you work, walk in the door and deal with a donkey. Why would you do that? Why would you put yourself through that?
Self-respect. No
Yeah,
self-respect.
there it is right there, 100%. You know, the thing is, man, your peace is that, and your time are the two biggest commodities as a man. I don't care what you say. If you're living a life like that, you need to take a hard look. You need to sit your woman down and say, hey, you know, I'm not into this situation anymore. I'm not going to negotiate with a terrorist. This is the woman I fell in love with. If you love her, this is the woman I was attracted to when I started dating you. Where is she? You're 40 pounds overweight. You aren't pulling your end of the stick. Now, I understand the burden of performance is on me, sweetheart. But I have expectations.
And requirements.
And it's on to the next, gentleman. It literally is.
Yeah, it needs to be. And that's the issue, is that we don't put those boundaries in place, those rules and requirements.
Yeah. And I want to get into that in the future. We'll come up with a topic. We will talk about the tools that men have at their disposal. There's 4 primary ones we could talk about just briefly to mention them. And that's your time, your attention, your affection, and your presence. Very effective in bringing those expectations back into line, not only for yourself, but as a couple to strengthen things. So it's not that you have to have a knockdown, drag out argument. You can just sail that ship in that direction, and it's going in that direction. Climb aboard. Here's the benefits. You know, it's a golden sunset if you get on board and go, but it is a journey. You know, if you want to get there fast, go alone. If you want to get there, you know, and stay there, go together. So interesting. I did want to, we got Joanna commenting here. Let's get this is interesting. Joanna, we appreciate your comments for sure, man. She wants to talk about the majority of men, the ones who work 8 hours a day and come home. These men can't afford to have a wife at home without her income. So don't have a wife. That's my answer. Level up.
Well, that's not true either. I mean, it's based on the perception of what a woman thinks that she deserves in her life.
Oh, good one. Yeah.
All right. I mean, there are poor people all over the world that are married, have kids, and are happy, and they sustain life.
No problems. Yeah.
Right.
That is the majority of marriages around the world, by the way.
Right. It is. And, you know, are there unreasonable expectations? I don't know Joanna personally, but are there unreasonable expectations about the life you want? And look at it this way. So a guy works 8 to 9 hours a day, comes home, he can't afford a wife, okay, because he can't spend 12 hours a day at work because he has to take care of his own personal needs. If a wife comes into the picture and takes care of that for him, that gives him extra time to work the side hustle and stuff like that. Yeah, that's where she's advocating. Okay. And are we advocating for struggle, love now? No, but we are advocating for struggle because life is a struggle. No one starts out making $120,000 a year. Most people don't get around to making $120,000 a year until they're in their mid to late 40s.
Yeah.
And, you know, most likely your highest earning year is going to be 55.
Yeah.
So either date older men or understand in any new relationship, in any young relationship, you're going to go through those struggles. The problem is most women aren't willing to go through those struggles. And at the point where it becomes too hard for them, they leave that relationship.
Right.
So, you know, but like I said, the average income in this country right now is about $45,000 to $55,000. It's about a 10,000 gap.
Yeah.
From the lowest average to the high average.
That's true.
All right. So they're over 2/3 of the population are surviving on that. And those people are married. A majority of those people are married.
Mm-hmm.
If you want the Benz or the Porsche, then you're going to have to look at a different category of men. But if you're going to look at that different category of men, you better have the ability to attract and maintain and understand that with that category of men comes challenges.
Yeah.
If you don't believe that, watch Fresh and Fit.
And this whole culture that we live in has been driving for this, for women to be in the workforce as 2 family income, and woe is me, but it's actually broadcast that way. It is glorified to be 2 family income. You can look at who is graduating from colleges for the last 15 years. It's more women than men. And because, the reality is that women entering the workforce is a taxpayer. She's a consumer. Women are in control of nearly 2/3 of all consumer spending. This is a big part of corporations will not ignore this. And their arm is the propaganda of the media. And they will broadcast and tell you it is absolutely normal for men and women to have 2 incomes at the expense of their children. It just is. And what Wraith brings up, and I'm sure Lauren knows this, having been an international traveler and businessman, there are many families that the woman's job is, she is very happy to be supportive of him, and he's out there hustling, making the money so that they have a family and they can enjoy that family life. In fact, many of them do that because they know in their old age, their family's all they'll have left. There is no Social Security. There is no government. There's none of those things. And it's been like that for time immemorial. And where is the true satisfaction in life, if not when you're old, that you have your family helping you and you're helping them?
Yeah. I wanted to say one thing before he jumps on, because I don't want to lose it. What Wraith was talking about.
Yeah.
Okay. You're absolutely right, Wraith. You need to be ready to step up to that level. That is the problem, though. 95% of women bring nothing to the table to land or close a man like that. They're overweight. They're in debt. They have nothing to offer. And so there's like this twist. There's like a twist. And, so you got 20% of the guys that are top tier that are making 200 plus K a year, 400 plus K a year, $1 million a year. Okay. And you have women that are bringing nothing to the table, demanding that kind of thing. So that's why a lot of the guys that are making 55K or less a year are getting passed by. But the thing is those women aren't staying in their lane. I really believe that a good woman, she may only be a 5 and not bring anything to the table, but she'll have some value there and have a great life with a guy that doesn't make a whole lot of money.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? I think that is a fundamental issue in why there's a lot of dudes that aren't having sex anymore, because they're in that 80% category. I think that women being closed-minded to men that aren't making a big pile of cheddar, they're the ones selling themselves short in the end, and that kind of validates what Rolo says about 2030.
Yeah. Totally agreed. Look at your woman's comment there. A lot of women out there that want instant gratification. I will say there are men too. This whole generation is trained that way. That's why we're having a problem with young men from 18 to 30 being sexless, and the problems that are associated with that. Definitely an issue. We're going to get Glenn in here again. He's going to come in here. I'm going to make an adjustment on the studio, so I'm going to turn it over to you guys while I mute. Okay. So keep this conversation rolling, guys.
Laurent, you had your hand up. Go ahead.
So this is the time for a little bit of math. You ready? So I will echo what Phil said. All right. So this is my contribution to tonight. All right. We I guess we can all agree that the primal need of women is safety. Right? They want to feel safe. So that's built in, right? All right. Now it's time to do a little bit of math statistics behind it. So we know that 80% of divorces are initiated by women, right? Now, if they want safety, how come they initiate divorce so much? Well, it's not very difficult. There's something in statistics called gain expectancy, which is actually trading hedge. That's my job. Like I work in finance, so trading hedge is very important. And gain expectancy, how is it calculated? It says usually how often you win times how much you win minus how often you lose times how much you lose on average. So far, so good, right? So let's calculate the gain expectancy of marriage. And this is where it gets really interesting. So, for instance, Phil was saying, like, oh, top earners, they get the best of the wives and so on and so forth. But, there's a reason why Arnold Schwarzenegger banged the maid. There's a reason why all these top earners actually are sexless. Because it's not, what happens is, let's do the average, let's start with the average gain and average loss. If you divorce, it's 50-50. Now, if you have kids are usually stay with the primary custodian, and custody is usually awarded at 80% to the mother, which means that if you have a house, at 80% of the case, you need to get out. I've never seen oh yeah, I divorced my wife, I kicked her out, she had the kids, I kept the condo, life is good, I kept the house. It doesn't exist. You divorce, all right, you go and sleep in the car for a while. And so basically, the average gain for a woman, no matter what, it is above 50%. Now, how often we lose times how often we win is not the divorce rate, is who initiates. Because this is a control variable. This is something, randomness, or something over which you have no power. So if women initiate at 80% divorce rate, that means that you have a 20% win rate. So 20% times 0.5 in the best case scenario, that gives you what? 0.1, right? And then 80% times at least 50%, that gives you 0.4. So you have a built-in negative gain expectancy of minus 0.3 for a dude. And that is if you don't have a house. If you have a house and if you have other things, that gets worse. So this carries a very interesting statistical property called, when you have a structural negative gain expectancy given all the possible outcomes, this carries a very interesting statistical property called certainty of ruin. You get married, you go broke. That's the statistical demonstration of modern marriage, the way it is. And it's not good or bad or whatnot. It's just a statistical fact. So
it is what it is. I remember when you first broke it down to me before, and it is brilliant. It's a brilliant way to look at marriage nowadays.
So is it a 50-50 partnership when structurally you have more to lose than to gain? By definition, it's not an equal partnership.
Mm-hmm.
It cannot be. All right, we've answered the question for tonight.
All right, we got Glenn back with us, guys. Can you hear us okay?
Look at those two Vikings. Yeah, we can hear you good.
What is Greta doing? Like those two together, this is a threat to there's so much hotness there. There's a threat to global warming.
Telling you.
How dare you?
Telling you. But I haven't been able to listen in because I had some technical difficulties on the other computer, you guys. But what I do want to point out is that if you go back, I said earlier, and it's in Titus, that the old women are supposed to teach young women to love their husbands, to do work from the home. It said work from home, work at home. And it was instructing them that their job is the household. So while the man is out there tilling the field, while the man is out there bringing in the bacon, their job is to manage the home. And see, women don't understand that. Like the women's complaining like, well, if your husband isn't doing enough of the household chores, well, what are you doing? You're watching Ricky Lake and Days of Our Lives. Okay. You could actually be, taking care of the household. Now, it's not in all the cases in every situation. Yes, we live in a situation where nowadays it takes a lot. There's more two people incomes going on than there is one. And Ray's made a point that, yes, it can be done with one. You just got to cut out all the bullshit, all the stuff that you don't need. And it's true. But while we're living in this two income household, then you're going to have that constant bickering because the man is not meeting his burden of performance by not being physically responsible, financially responsible, and making sure that they're living within their means. And that's a problem.
Yeah, what she's saying right here, Joanna, I
Yeah.
love this girl. We should probably have her on at some time, Glenn.
We were on. She was
Yeah.
on
I
the
know.
show with Jen on the Block.
I know. I
Excellent.
remember that. Yeah, she's very based.
Yeah, when we do our specials, we'll reach out to Joanna. Thanks. That's a very important comment. Particularly, this is where men fundamentally screw themselves up, is when they get into that idealism of love and they love a woman for what she can never actually be to him. And that's a problem too. That wasn't the topic of today's show, but we sure appreciate that. Yeah, it definitely does support the fact that it's not an equal partnership. Men love differently, and women are not capable of giving men the love they expect to get, because it's just the way we're built. And that's important to recognize, because when you do recognize that, you realize that you can keep that attraction alive, and that's what really keeps things going together. That's really it. That and the sex is the glue that keeps the marriage together. And so many people use sex against each other, and that is very wrong. And I would say that's not actually biblical.
Well, it says women in the Bible. It says women are not supposed to love their husbands. It says men to love your wives.
Yep.
Nowhere does it say wives love your husbands. It says wives submit and respect your husbands. That's why Joanna is right on this. Only respect. Women are supposed to respect their husbands. Husbands are supposed to love their wives. Not the other way around.
I want to tee on.
And right now we're seeing a lot of that switching. We're seeing a lot of men respecting their wives and submitting to their wives, but not and loving. We're seeing it reversed. We're not seeing the roles played out the way it's supposed to.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Is women love opportunistically. Period. They see a man of status, they put the friggin' spice and smell good on and all that good stuff and get straightened out to get his attention. Period. Uh-oh, somebody's phone's going off. The moral of the story is women love opportunistically, and men are the true romantics. So the equal partnership thing is doomed from the beginning. I believe in marriage, but I don't believe in marriage. Jen on the Block last week had a very valid point when she said I can't remember exactly how she said it. She had said something like this. She said that people move on, they grow out of people. Okay, and she does not advocate for marriage, because the simple fact is things change. The problem is a lot of women get into situations with men and they change not for the better. They don't grow. Men create that gap and outgrow their women. Okay, and he wants her to win. He wants her to follow his rise to the top of the heap, but she's too mired and confused with all this other information she's getting from other women, propaganda on TV, consumerism, like Thor, like Wraith was talking about. It's amazing to me that when a woman has a man in her life, all she needs to do is divert to his judgment. If he's not failing her as a man, and it's really simple to find out if he's failing you as a man. Is your life in a shambles? Are your bills getting paid? Or do you have shelter? Do you feel safe around this man? I mean, it's really easy for a woman to discern whether he's failing her or not. Is he fucking you well? Is he taking care of your needs in the bedroom? Is he meeting your emotional needs when you need those met? If all of those boxes are being ticked, it is a woman's burden to continue to keep that gap tight between her and her man. The problem is most men, they come to this side of, the manosphere or red pill theory or whatever they want, and they start to grow. Okay. And the promise is always, yeah, man, if you improve yourself, she's going to start fucking you again, bro. And if you improve yourself and you get that better job and you make more money, that status is going to turn her on. But the thing is most women are so caught with all these lies that they've been fed, that gap gets created. And two things happen. Either he plugs back in and submits to her like we're talking about today, or he outgrows her, he moves on in his mindset, and she gets traded in for something younger, hotter, and tighter.
You know what equal partnership is? When a woman asks for an equal partnership, it's a shit test. In a way, it's a shit test. She wants to see if you're going to really to defer to her authority, if you're going to give up your position. Do you know what it's like this? Marriage is like a policeman. If you're a husband and you're the head of the household, you're like the policeman with the badge, right? But what you do when you go to an equal partnership, you give up the badge and the gun and you just wear the uniform. So you have no way to enforce the position that you're in. You are now the fall guy when things go wrong in an equal partnership. Because equal partnership does not work. And any guy that supports an equal partnership relationship, you are choosing to set your relationship for failure in the long run. And a lot of guys do that to get the woman like, oh yeah, I believe in equal partnership. I believe in, you're just as equal as I am. And they do that to win women over. But when it comes down to it, she's going to resent him for not being the head of the household, for not being the guy that leads.
Especially when it comes to ability to maintain attraction. We all lose it. All relationships are temporary. Guys, marriage ends in only two ways. Divorce or death. So all relationships are temporary, but there is a lot of our biology that pushes us into a direction to lose attraction. So it is up to a man to lead and maintain his attraction in those relationships. And when you do, it's an amazing thing to behold, because if you don't and a woman gets bored, what is the death of all relationships? She gets bored. She can have everything provided to her, but if you're not doing the basics to maintain a level of attraction for her, and we'll get into that in other times, and that is not equal. Although she should maintain some attraction to you, men will put up with a woman that is far less attractive than women will with a man. It's just the way it is, and it bears out in the divorce statistics for sure. As soon as that happens, biology takes over, and the next available opportunity that looks better is going to be seized upon.
Yeah, and it's just like right here, what she says, too many women make the choice to stay with a failing man.
They do.
Then they make the bad choice to seek fulfillment from someone else. And so the cycle perpetuates.
And they find out that he's kind of the same.
100%. It's amazing to me, though, and I don't want any woman that might potentially watch this podcast to think that I don't love women. Look, I love everything about women. Women are friggin' amazing creatures. You smell good. You feel good. I love spending time with you. I love women. The thing with marriage and it not being an equal partnership is it never was designed that way from the beginning. Glenn laid that out with the biblical stuff at the very beginning of this stream. And society has twisted that in a woman's mind, unfortunately. There is no such thing as equal. As a man, it is my duty to shelter and provide. Thanks, babe. It is my duty to do that. It is your duty to support my mission. Support. You are underneath me. Period. And that's why it works. Now, when people get married, 9 times out of 10, some dude hasn't had any kind of awakening or anything like that, or been around guys like Wraith that can kind of school them and game them, or guys like Thor, older guys, the sage guys, the guys that got the sage wisdom. Okay, and what happens is these men are perpetually watching their beta fathers interact with their mothers, and then they come up and they are in turn what? Beta. It's real simple. And so the cycle continues. But with every cycle, it seems like women get more and more empowered. Would you guys not agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, Phil. This is the father's responsibility to his sons and brothers to brothers. This is what is taught. And as a father, and I show them the example on how to maintain that attraction and keep those women interested. If you go into the details, it's quite unflattering, and yet it is exact reality. It's how it works. So, but it does maintain the relationship in a way in which the woman is quite fulfilled. And when she is fulfilled in the relationship, you could have, Aquaman and Thor, not me, but the Thor in the movie standing right next to her, and she is really not interested, because to her, you outshine them because you're doing your part.
Yeah. Let me say something. I work with young men on these issues, and when you look at, and you start talking to these young men, you start finding out that those young men that had strong mothers and beta fathers, they have no relationships with their father. It's almost non-existent. And everything that they've learned about being a man came from their mother. So the first thing I have them do is start having conversations with their father to find out why their father allowed that to happen to them, so that they can start working their way and learning their way out of that behavior. So it's not the fact that you had a beta father. It's the fact that your beta father let your mother teach you how to be a man.
Can you go further on that?
When a woman takes over the family, okay, and a father doesn't insert himself into, especially for young men, into defining roles, the young man comes out confused at 20, 25, and probably even farther in his life of what a man's responsibilities are. It is good to read a book and it says, hey, you have the burden of performance. But if you've never witnessed that burden of performance, how can you even exhibit it? Okay. So you have to go back to when all that started and start dealing with the issues. And a lot of men may not even be beta, but they just check out. They don't want to stay. They don't want to participate in raising the children because it's always a constant disagreement with the woman. So they check out and just let the woman raise them. Mm-hmm. And I'm finding as I keep working with young men, I'm finding more of that than their father actually being beta. He just checked out of the relationship. He checked out of the relationship with her. He checked out of the relationship with the kids. He's still present in the house, but for all intents and purposes, he's not there.
Right. It's why it's important for men to realize, like, what is it goes back to what does it take to be a man? You know?
Yeah. You know, great points. I agree with you, Wraith. Good point. I want to show what Mrs. Fox. I'd love. You know what? We might have to do a special and bring some of these girls on because I want to read her comment. Unfortunately, in today's world of social media, it is hard for older women to teach younger women how to submit to a man because they want to do what is popular on social media. I think it's much deeper than that. I think when a woman is young, it's interesting because you can see transformations of women over the course of their life. They're very dependent on their cycles, how their hormones are running, you know. And I've watched young women are, in many cases, are way more hard-headed than young men, you know. And the older women get extremely frustrated with the younger women because on several levels, number one, the older women are still competing with the younger women. So there's that in contention as well. And so teaching a younger woman, I think that it's going to be much more valuable if we can get mothers and fathers to work with the younger women, because once they get about a certain age and they're in the sexual marketplace and, you know, playing it at full tilt, you know, they're going to learn the hard way. It just happens over and over again, unless they choose to opt out. And that opt out would be, you know, to follow nature's path, have children with a man, settle down and get married, or to remove themselves from it. And social media is a drug, man. But I do find that, you know, just listening to younger women, they definitely are very affected by the media, as Mrs. Phil Foster said. It'd be interesting to have the older gals take on that.
But you know what would be interesting though? It's like the current fad is the push against like popular beliefs, right? So right now, like the trend is like if you're trending if you're pushing against, like, you know, the norm or the.
Then why aren't we trending? What do you mean?
Well, you're not trending because you look like a 12-year-old, but you know, like if women like why do you think like Allie from Real Femme Sapien is trending so well? Is because she's pushing against the norm. The norm is telling women to be independent women, you know, be a boss bitch. And Allie is like, no, this is how I live my life. And I love my life. And women are going to like roaring up against her, but she's doing what she's doing and she's changing women's minds and doing it. They need to be more of that from women. And that goes back to that verse, like older women need to teach young women. Right.
They're going to have difficulty doing it though, Glenn, because the accountability issue.
Oh,
There's no
yeah.
accountability for bad choices. It's removed from them. So the consequence of a bad choice is removed. It's okay, girl. You know, you did okay, but you make a bad choice. What happens
Yeah.
to you? You
Oh,
end up
yeah.
on the other side of
Yeah.
that corrections officer, right?
Yep.
There is
I'm
no
one of the bad
excuse.
ones.
You know,
Not wearing
so
a jumpsuit.
you know, I think it has a lot to do with accountability. Men, we are having one hell of a good conversation today. Would anybody like to add final thoughts? We can start, and we will go round table and finish, unless you have some final thoughts you want to do right now. Let's start then. Phil, what's going on, man? Let's wrap it up.
What's going on, man? Great topic today, man. I just think that, in society right now, it's upside down. It's going to take guys with sage wisdom like Wraith, older dudes that have been around for a little bit to kind of counsel with these young guys. Wraith, whatever you're doing with those young guys, man, keep it up, man. The big thing is getting guys to understand that your place is at the head of the table, not her. So I challenge all men right now. If you're in a relationship with a woman and you aren't leading it, mentally get out your jackhammer and chisel and break down that pedestal in your mind that you have put her on. She does not belong on that pedestal, my friend. You do. All things flow through the Father. 100%. You are the father of your tribe. You are the leader of your household. It always flows through you. Things are messed up because you're allowing her to run things. No, you delegate things, my friend. And that's why it's going to work, because you are running the household and you are delegating to your woman and she is supporting your mission and you're growing. Man, this topic right here, man, I could go on and on for days. Obviously, I've had some trauma in my life with an ex-wife. I understand women very, very well. Trust me. And I will tell you that marriage in this day and age, maybe 1% might make it. Maybe. And that 1% is going to be guys that people like Wraith have gotten a hold of at a young age and straightened out and said, look here, no. Don't do what your father has done. These are the expectations and standards you need to set in your home. And this is why you're going to win if you implement these. Super simple. You can find me at philfosterfitness.com. You can find me at philfoster_ all over social media. You want to talk further about this? I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I'm everywhere, man. YouTube. Guys, get it together, man. Understand that your marriage is failing. If you're in a marriage or your relationship is failing 100% because of you. You're allowing that behavior. Your two biggest commodities in your life are your peace and your time. If you're wasting your time dealing with an unconsolable woman and she's stealing that peace from you, she has to go on to the next, gentleman. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Phil. We appreciate that. The husband in your new studio, give us your final thoughts, brother. What are you up to?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a great discussion. I kind of left a lot of it for you guys to discuss because you guys have a lot more experience than I do. I am junior, I guess. So, I help guys as a dating coach. I help them get started. And once you get started, that's great. You get the girl. But then how do you maintain that relationship? And that's what's very important about this discussion, is making sure that men understand, how do you have a complete family structure? So I thought it was great. If you guys want to find me at the Hudsman on Instagram, best way to communicate with me. I've got a couple spots open for consults. So that's about it. I mean, this is great. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Huds. Let's go ahead and let's move to Laurent. What are your final thoughts there, Laurent?
Couple of things. Number one, I mean, I see that women wanting to lead is a form of congruence test. Like, okay, women will push for that, but if you actually establish yourself as the lead, once they get to lead, they're frustrated with that. They will start resenting you. So you have to hold firm. And women eventually get it. Like, hey, listen, I take the lead, Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock. I go around, blow up some stupid shit, and I take the blame. So you can be there and relax. And it takes some time, but it gets there. That's difficult to establish. Second thing is a lot of guys actually give in, as Phil said before, like they check out because it's not worth it. They have, you can't fight the battle of your career and make money and fight and come home to fight another battle. You got to pick your battle, and it's very, very unfortunate in this day and age. And in this case, well, the whole thing about vetting is all nice and dandy, but once you have kids, the dynamics change. The dynamics change. So it's a little bit more complicated than that. And one skill that would be very useful, and one skill that people like Wraith, people like Thor, people like Phil, people who have done it, is how do you restore the balance? How do you bring uh, a balance to the force again? That is a very interesting topic that a lot of guys who are lost in their relationship need to find out. But apart from that, I have nothing to sell. I'm just here, and I'm grateful that you to be among you, to learn from you, gentlemen and ladies. Ladies, I mean, thank you very much, ladies. You've been a fantastic contribution. Thank you very much. All right, thank you very much from
Absolutely.
Tokyo.
Thank you, Laurent. Let's move to Wraith. Good to have you on here. What are your final thoughts on this subject of not being an equal partnership?
Let me say, I want to address one thing. Is it important for a man to be in the family? If you're functioning as a man in the family, okay? Don't stay in a relationship and be in a family to your children if the only thing you can serve is a bad example. You know?
Oh, yeah.
So, and that's the important thing. Yes, if a man stays in his family and he's a functioning father, it will aid that child. But if you check out, understand you're part of the problem for that child's future. So if you are in a family and you have children and you're listening to this program, start becoming active in your child's life. Don't let someone else tell you what it takes to be a man, especially if it's your wife. And start exercising, your rights as his father. Now, is marriage 50-50? No. Men and women are equal on one point. It takes both of them to make a child. She can have as many eggs as she wants, but if you don't provide the sperm, no child ever gets created. That's the only equality we have. It takes both of us to participate in that. But the reality is, why are you the prize? Because you're the one that controls who that egg's given to. That's your responsibility. So take responsibility for yourself, men. And as you take responsibility for yourself, take responsibilities for those that you bring into this world. And if you're just starting out learning that, and if you're just starting out trying to date and develop a relationship, now's the time to start figuring out who you are, not when you're 7 years into a relationship. Because as you get older, things are going to change in your life and you're going to have to adapt to them. And it's better to know at the core value of yourself who you are at this point in your life before you even get in a relationship. Because if you don't, you won't have frame and you'll live under somebody else's rules for the rest of your life. If you want to talk to me, it's Wraith_and_Detour on just about every form of social media, even on Twitter or Twitter or whatever it is. But Instagram, Facebook, Telegram, same name.
Thank you, Wraith. Appreciate that. Glenn, you got some final thoughts here?
Yeah, marriage is not equal. It never was equal. It never intended to be equal. Women were not supposed to carry the burdens of men, and men were never intended to carry the burdens of females. All right, that's biblical. It goes down biblically sound. It's been the standard bearer for years, for centuries. Let's not fuck that up, people. We do that enough. We're fucking a lot of things up. Let's get back to what was working. Men need to be men. Women don't make men. Men make men. So men, we have to rise up and help these younger generations. We got to help these boys. We have to help these young men to help find their way. All right, ladies, Read the verse in Titus. Older women teach young women how to love their husbands, their children, to be respectful and submissive, and to take care of the house. Hey, I didn't write it. It's in the Bible. If you don't like it, talk to Jesus. But you know what? We're about to hit the road. So Thor, go and close this out. I'm ready to hit the bike.
Thank you guys. I don't want to leave you guys with any downers, man. It's entirely possible to have a very successful marriage now. We talk about what is successful marriage. I don't want to be down on this, but all marriages do end, guys. It does. But you know what? If you can spend the bulk of your years with someone that makes, life more bearable, more successful, more enjoyable, and if that's the majority of it and it ends, that's great. That would be considered success. There's a lot that men can do to really improve the success rate of their relationships. Unfortunately, a modern state marriage is not one of them, and I am not advocating that at all. A ceremonial or a covenant marriage can be that today, but you have to be very, very careful. Men, you must be extremely selective. I am not advocating marriage out of the go. You have a lot of work to do first, and in the current environment, you have nearly, $100 billion industry in making you split up with a woman and then divvying up the pieces of that carcass. That is a fact. And that is unbearable weight for most people to live under. All of your friends' influences, the eat, pray, love books that are out there as you age, it's gray divorce. All of these things are kind of poo-pooed in public, yet we spend billions and billions of dollars to ensure that machine, that corporation is ever present and steamrolling every single person that rolls into this generation. And you can see the evidence of it right now with young men between 18 and 30 that are sexless, and women that see nearly almost all of men as invisible and only the top few percent as potential mates for a long-term relationship. Everything else is very static and transient and just for the mere pleasure of it. And of course, for the extraction of money, as it has been glorified on all of our media so far in consumerism. So if you really want to be able to enjoy a relationship, just imagine yourself on a beach with that person you're so highly attracted and aroused to. It's just you two. It's a beautiful white sand beach. For those moments, and you're in that moment, does it really matter how much money you have? Does it matter what chores are being done at that moment? I mean, you can make that moment last a lifetime if you want. At least to one of you passes on. But it's up to you. And if it really means something to you, you'll stick it out through the hard times. There's plenty of hard times. You get lots of practice. But guess what? You get more good times than you get bad times if you're working towards it. So that's what I'll close this out with. Next time, I'd really like to explore. I'd like to explore some of the actual fundamentals in the upcoming weeks before we hit November. Glenn, I'd like to explore what men can do when they have a failing relationship in a long-term relationship before the split is done.
Yeah.
Generally, women have checked out. I'm going to bring up the panel for this as we close, just so we can see all their faces. I would like to go ahead and start to explore when that relationship starts to turn sexless, it starts to turn sour, and you start to get little bits of contempt that bleed into that relationship. What can a man do to correct the course? Because I believe ultimately it is his responsibility. He's in charge of the dragon ship to steer it in the right course, or it is doomed to get crushed on the rocks. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us, and look forward to seeing you on the very next Dragon Ship. Skull.